In 1947, in Los Angeles, a discovery was made that would become one of the chilling and most mysterious murder cases in history. A young woman's body was found, cut cleanly in half, completely drained of blood, and carefully posed in an empty lot. This is not a myth. This is not an urban legend. This was a real case investigated by the Los Angeles Police Department, documented in police files, autopsy reports, and newspaper archives. And the victim's name was Elizabeth Short. Elizabeth Short was only 22 years old. She was born in Boston in 1924, a fact confirmed by official birth records recovered during the investigation. Her life was far from easy. During the Great Depression, her father disappeared, leaving her mother to raise 5 daughters alone. From a young age, Elizabeth dreamed of escaping that life, of becoming someone, of making it to Hollywood. In the 1940s, she moved to California, chasing that dream. But the reality she faced was very different. Police records later showed that Elizabeth had no permanent home. She moved constantly, staying in cheap hotels or with friends. Despite popular belief, there is no official record of her ever working as an actress. Hollywood never gave her the opportunity she was hoping for. But people remembered her. She had jet black hair, pale skin, and often wore dark clothing. That striking appearance would later inspire the name given to her by the press, the Black Dahlia. On January 15, 1947, in a neighborhood known as Lamert Park, a woman named Betty Bersinger was walking with her young daughter. This detail comes directly from original police reports and newspaper coverage at the time. As she walked past an empty lot, she noticed something unusual lying in the grass. At first, she thought it was a broken mannequin, but as she got closer, she realized it was something far more horrifying. It was a human body. Elizabeth Short's body had been severed half in two at the waist. According to the official coroner's report, the body had been completely drained of blood and thoroughly cleaned before being placed at the scene. That detail alone told investigators something critical. She had not been killed there. There was no blood at the location, no signs of struggle, which meant the murder had taken place somewhere else and her body had been transported and staged. But it gets even more disturbing. The cuts on her body were not rough or random. They were precise. Medical experts noted that the separation of the body resembled a procedure known as a hemicorporectomy-style incision, a technique requiring knowledge of human anatomy. This wasn't something an average person could easily do. Whoever committed this crime knew exactly what they were doing. Her face had been slashed from the corners of her mouth to her ears, creating what is known in forensic terms as a Glasgow smile. This detail was confirmed during the autopsy and remains one of the most haunting aspects of the case. Her body had also been posed deliberately, arms raised, legs positioned in a specific way. Investigators documented this in crime scene photographs, noting that it appeared staged, almost theatrical. This wasn't just a murder, it was a display. And then the case took an even darker turn.
Shortly after the discovery, a newspaper office received a phone call. The caller claimed to be the killer. This event was reported by the Los Angeles Examiner and other newspapers at the time. The caller said he would provide proof. Days later, a package arrived. Inside were Elizabeth Short's personal belongings, her birth certificate, business cards, and photographs. According to police evidence logs, every item had been carefully cleaned with gasoline to remove fingerprints. This was confirmed. The killer wasn't hiding. He was communicating, taunting the police and the public.
I need to check the witness statements.
The investigation quickly became one of the largest in Los Angeles history. Over 150 suspects were questioned. Doctors, actors, military personnel, and ordinary citizens were all investigated. But one suspect has remained at the center of debate for decades. Dr. George Hodel. He was a physician living in Los Angeles at the time. This is not speculation. He was officially investigated by the LAPD in 1949. His home was placed under surveillance. Even police planted listening devices inside. Years later, those recordings were uncovered by his son, Steve Hodel, a former LAPD detective. In those recordings, Dr. Hodel allegedly said, "Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia, they can't prove it now." It's chilling, but it's important to understand this was never enough for a conviction. No court ever found him guilty, and officially, the case remains unsolved. What investigators could agree on, however, was this: the person responsible, likely knowledge of anatomy, the precision of the cuts, the draining of blood, and the careful cleaning of the body all pointed towards someone with skill, possibly medical training. The positioning of the body suggested planning, control, intent. This wasn't just a random act, it was calculated. And yet, despite all the evidence, all the suspects, all the theories, no one was ever charged, no one was ever arrested. Elizabeth Short's case remains one of the most famous unsolved murders in American history. But beyond the mystery, beyond the horror, there is a truth that often gets lost. Elizabeth Short was not a symbol. She was not just a headline. She was a real person, a young woman trying to build a life, trying to find a place in the world, trying to become something more. And instead, she became part of a mystery that still has no ending. Decades have passed. The evidence has aged. Witnesses are gone. But the questions remain. Who did this? Why her? And how did someone commit such a precise, calculated crime and disappear without a trace? Because the most unsettling part of this entire story is not just the brutality, it's the intention. The killer contacted the press, sent personal belongings, removed fingerprints, staged the body. This wasn't just murder. This was someone who wanted attention, someone who wanted control, someone who wanted to be remembered. And in a way, they succeeded. Because even today, we are still talking about it, still searching for answers, still trying to understand something that may never be explained. And maybe that was the plan all along.